Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 16 Pro Max and compare it against the iPhone XS Max and see which particular phone is a better one for you. Now, in almost every single way I can imagine, I think the iPhone 16 Pro Max is a way better device. And if you are going to go through and pick up a device, I would probably recommend going through and buying that phone, to be honest. But I think the XS Max is still pretty interesting. I think there might still be some interesting things going on for that phone. So take a look at it throughout this whole entire video. But if at any point you want to go ahead and pick up either one of these phones or any phones in between, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. So starting off with the outside of both these phones. With the iPhone XS Max, this phone originally came out in 2018. So this phone is a little old now, so you could probably imagine just the way this video is going to go. It's like 6 years old as of this point. That is a pretty big difference in and of itself. So you're going to have to kind of keep that in mind. If you're going to go through and pick up a phone, that is going to be a way older phone here than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. The XS Max on the front side is giving you a very large 6.5-inch Super Retina, HD display. The thing with that particular panel was that it was basically the biggest phone panel Apple made at that time. So that was, I would say, a pretty big asset. So with something like the iPhone XS Max, it's not really that good of a phone anymore, like I mentioned, and I probably wouldn't recommend buying that phone as your everyday device as of this point, but it was still a very good phone, and I do think when it first came out, it was a very good device for the most part. With something like the iPhone 16 Pro Max on the other hand, this particular phone on the front side is giving you a 6.9-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So this particular phone panel is a little bit different because it is a way better device in basically every single way you can imagine. That phone is giving you a bigger size display. It's a ProMotion 120Hz display as well, which is another very big deal. And it's an always on display as well. So those types of things for the most part are very, very important things to have inside of a phone. Because if you're going to go through and pick up a device, I think those things are very important to have, right? Those are very good assets for a device. And like I said before, I do think if you're going to go through, pick up a phone, those things are very, very important. On the sides, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is a flat-sided phone with, a big change on the bottom. The XS Max is basically giving you this curved side, which is good. The iPhone XS Max is giving you a lightning port at the bottom, where the iPhone 16 Pro Max is giving you a USB Type-C port. I think the USB Type-C port change is an even bigger change than going and getting something like the action button or the camera button. I love having a phone that's giving me USB Type-C, and this is in and of itself another very, very big change here. Personally for me, like I said before, if I'm going to go through and pick up a phone, this is a very big asset, and I love having a phone like the iPhone 16 Pro Max that's basically going to be giving me that type of capability. So personally for me, that's a very big change. On top of that, another very big thing is on the back side, you're getting a standard glass back on the iPhone XS Max, which is great. Dual camera setup. The 16 Pro Max is giving you a frosted glass back with a triple camera setup and a LiDAR sensor. So from that side as well, if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, I think the iPhone 16 Pro Max here as well has another very big change here. The fact that you're going to be getting that type of capability, I'm a very, very big fan of. And I do think from that side, that in and of itself, I would say is a very, very big upgrade. So personally for me, if you're looking at the XS Max and you're looking at the 16 Pro Max, in almost every single way you can imagine, the 16 Pro Max is a way better phone here. The XS Max, I don't really think of any way that phone is better. Maybe from a price tag side, the XS Max is significantly cheaper. It's like $200 or something right now, probably even less than that. The 16 Pro Max is like $11.99. So that is a very expensive phone on that device. So if you are wanting the cheaper phone here, the XS Max, is the cheaper one here. So that might be an advantage for that device. Now, when it comes down to the camera side of things, the iPhone XS Max is giving you that dual camera setup, a wide and a telephoto lens. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is giving you a wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens. So you're able to do 4K at 60 on the back of both, only 1080p at 60 on the front of the XS Max, whereas on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, you're getting 4K at 120 frames per second on the back side. This is in and of itself a really, really big change here, and I do think that in and of itself is a pretty big upgrade. Now, on top of that, what I would also say is that from the other side of these phones, like if you're looking at the back side, the 16 Pro Max camera for having that dedicated telephoto lens and ultra-wide camera is really nice. 5x zoom on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, where you're only getting 2x zoom on the iPhone XS Max. This is a pretty big change here, because when you're looking at both these devices, the XS Max, that's zooming in capability is the same as the iPhone 16 standard model, and that phone doesn't even have a telephoto lens. So the fact that you're getting the same amount of zoom with a dedicated lens, so long ago, is pretty impressive, and it shows how much these cameras have improved since that point. So with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I'd probably say in almost every single way you can imagine, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is probably the better device here in almost every single way you can imagine from the camera side. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now beyond that, another very big change here is when it comes down to the software longevity. As you can probably imagine, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is going to be the phone here that is probably going to be the longer lasting one here. The XS Max is still supported with software, and maybe it'll get the next version of software, but even at that point, it's only like another year of software support, right? That's kind of the big difference here. Like if you're wanting the longer lasting phone, it pretty much is going to be something like the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But also if you're wanting the phone that's going to be giving you longer lasting battery, that's also going to be the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Right now, Apple states on their website, the iPhone XS Max was giving you 15 hours of video playback. And that's assuming your phone is like at 100% battery health capacity, which it probably isn't anymore. The 16 Pro Max is giving you 33 hours of video playback. This is, once again, in and of itself, a massive change. Imagine being able to go through and, get a phone like on the iPhone 16 Pro Max that's going to be giving you a much longer lasting battery support. I think this is in and of itself one of the bigger changes here. And once again, if you're going to go through and pick up a device, it pretty much is going to be something like the iPhone 16 Pro Max that's going to be the better one here for the everyday average person. So from that side as well, that's kind of another big thing to keep in mind there as well. Now when it comes down to the battery life side of things, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is basically giving you the Apple A18 Pro chipset inside of it with 8 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone XS Max is giving you that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So for me personally, right, like if I'm in the market and if I'm going to go through and like pick up a device, once again, in almost every single way I can imagine, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is going to be a significantly faster phone here in every single way I could ever imagine it. And the main reason for this is because with a device like the iPhone 16 Pro Max, you're getting a newer chipset, you're getting more RAM, and you're just getting that 120Hz display as well, which is another very big asset. I love being able to go through and buy a phone like on the iPhone 16 Pro Max and be able to get that type of experience. And I do think this in and of itself, like I said before, is another very big asset. So the XS Max I think is still good, and it's an overall like a pretty good device when it comes down to it. But I definitely do think if you're in the market and you're going to go through and pick up a device, it like has to be the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I do think this is a really good option for the everyday average person. If you have all the money in the world, go for that phone. But if you don't have all the money in the world, there's a lot of phones in between these two that I could also recommend. Things like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, I think is a very good phone. That's a very, very solid device. Phones like the iPhone, even 12 Pro Max is a big upgrade, but definitely go for the 13 Pro Max and the 14 Pro Max. I think those are definitely solid options, and those are probably better overall than something like the iPhone, XS Max as of this point. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.